There was one repeat division winner this season, tied for the fewest in a year since division realignment in 2002. The only team, the champs. Philadelphia snapped that 2 decades-long streak of no repeat NFC East champions here in 2025, which ties that 2011 season. So it's time to bring in one half of the Pushing the Pile podcast. JP Acosta joining us here on HQ, where we're making the case for all 7 NFC teams to win the Super Bowl in Santa Clara. So JP, let's start off with the 1 seed, the team that gets the bye and home field advantage, the Seattle Seahawks.
I think the case for the Seahawks is pretty simple. The defensive line takes over every single game they play in, and Sam Darnold plays mistake-free football. Sam Darnold, over the first 9 weeks of the season, had a turnover-worthy throw rate of 2.3%, but over the last half of the season, that doubled over the finishing course of the season. So I think for the playoffs, the Seahawks have to limit Sam Darnold's turnover-worthy throws. You got to try and keep him managing the game instead of trying to be a superhero, because this defense can absolutely win the Super Bowl. This defensive line can take over games just like it did against San Francisco. And I think Mike Macdonald has his defense playing at such a high level, and a Super Bowl caliber defense with Sam Darnold making mistake-free football. I think that's a recipe for success for the Seahawks.
They get to stay in the Pacific Northwest. And by the way, we all know the Mike Macdonald road record, 15-2 in his first 2 years. And even though this would be a neutral site in Santa Clara, they're away from home, and you know how that goes and what they did in Week 18. All right, let's make the case for the Chicago Bears up next.
For the Bears, the offense has to go supernova this entire playoffs. I think relying on this defense to make turnovers and create turnovers at the same rate that they did in the regular season is a little bit high variance. I don't know if I trust this defense enough, even without making turnovers or creating chaos. But the offense can play with anybody in the entire NFL. They're 7th in the NFL in EPA per play. They move the ball on the ground. Caleb Williams has done such a good job this season of mitigating negative plays. He doesn't turn the ball over a lot. He doesn't take a lot of sacks. And because of that, you live with some of the high variance, some of the outside the pocket throws, some of the real creative plays that Caleb Williams can make, he's allowed to do because he avoids negative plays at such a high rate. So for them to win the Super Bowl or even make the Super Bowl, I think they have to really lean into that offense, and they got to put up at least 30, 40 points a game.
Okay, they need to be supernova, as you put it. It was interesting in Week 18 how Chicago and Philly played out the 2 and 3 seeds. So the champs get the 3 seed. They're up next. Make the case for the Eagles to go back-to-back.
To go back-to-back, I think this Eagles team has to lean on their defense. They have to make every game a rock fight. This feels like the defending champions coming in. They're sort of on the ropes, but you have to beat the Eagles for 60 minutes, and I think this defense has just enough for them this year. If they want to make the Super Bowl, it's got to lean through that defensive line that can take over games. Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, I think the addition of Jalen Phillips on the edge as a pass rusher really gives them a lot. So because if you get in games you play against the Eagles, you really have to win in the whole 60 minutes, because if you let them stay around, if you let them hang around, you're always one A.J. Brown or one Devontae Smith or one Saquon Barkley play away from the Eagles winning. So I think for this Eagles team to win the Super Bowl, they have to have the defense win a lot of games for them just to keep the offense in a winnable situation.
Next up is the team with the longest odds to win the Lombardi out of all 14 teams still left in the big dance. It's the Carolina Panthers. 200-1 is generally what you're seeing in the betting markets here. But, JP, make the case for the Panthers. Keep pounding.
So there might be a little bit of conjecture, and sorry to our producer James, it might be a little bit of a stretch for this Panthers team to win the Super Bowl, but if they do, they're going to have to do it on the backs of this ground game. They've invested so much into their offensive line, and they run the ball at a super high level in all of their wins. That allows them to shorten the game. It keeps their defense off the field, and I think they've really struggled on the defensive side of the ball this season. But where they have to win is their offensive line has to road grade, and then they have to be uber efficient on 3rd and 4th down. That's where they win games. That's where Bryce Young is at his best. They have to win in those high leverage situations to make the Super Bowl, and I think for this team, it's got to lean through the offensive line.
Okay, you made the case for the Carolina Panthers, who will be home double-digit underdogs to the LA Rams, a team they beat back in Week 13 at Bank of America Stadium. But now let's make the case for Sean McVay, Matthew Stafford and company out in LA.
I think it's pretty simple for the Rams. The offense continues to play at a high level, and this pass rush completely shuts the door on any opposing team. They're first in the NFL in success rate. They move the ball at such a high level. I think what's underrated about this Rams team, because they have Puka Nacua, Devontae Adams, Matthew Stafford, Sean McVay calling the plays, they've been one of the most successful rushing games this season out of anybody in the NFL. I believe they're number one in rushing success rate. So when they're able to run the ball the way they do, when they're able to create explosives in the passing game with Devontae Adams 100% healthy, and if they get Kevin Dotson, their right guard, back healthy, I think it's going to be really tough to beat this team on offense. And if they get a lead, it's going to be really tough to block all those guys they have up front with that pass rush. Kobe Turner's playing at an all-pro level this season. Jared Verse is always going to create havoc. Byron Young's played really well, and they now have guys they can rotate on that defensive line. So that's really how they're going to win. We have seen teams win Super Bowls before with elite quarterbacking and elite pass rush, and I think the Rams can do it again just like they did last time.
Yeah, when the Rams lost to the Panthers the first time around, Matthew Stafford 3 turnovers, which was quite unusual for him having an MVP-type season this year. Let's get to the San Francisco 49ers. I'm curious to get your thoughts on making the case for Kyle Shanahan and his crew, because if you describe Chicago as supernova, JP, how are you describing the Niners?
I believe if the Bears are supernova, the Niners will have to go even beyond that. They'll have to go full Super Saiyan on offense to truly make the Super Bowl if they want to get a home game in Santa Clara. This offense has been at such a high level since Brock Purdy came back. Kyle Shanahan has done an amazing job getting this team to just an elite level on offense, even without the defense playing without most of their superstars, Fred Warner, Nick Bosa, not coming back for this playoff run potentially. But this offense can win them games. I think that Kyle Shanahan has done such a great job of masking some of the inefficiencies with the receiver core and some of the inefficiencies they've had on the ground. They haven't really run the ball super effectively this year, but they've done it at a high volume. So if they're able to just continue to put points on the board, if they can score with anybody, you can at least have the defense make a couple of big plays. But it's going to have to be leaning on the offense to win the Super Bowl.
I always knew I liked you, JP, with the Dragon Ball Z reference. We'll see how many spirit bombs that the Niners can conjure up during this playoff run. Last but not least, the Green Bay Packers make the case for Matt LaFleur, Jordan Love, and gang.
I think it's going to have to be on Jordan Love. This Packers team comes in incredibly injured. They're not going to have Tucker Kraft. They're not going to have Micah Parsons. So it's going to lean on their quarterback, Jordan Love. And in this situation, I think the Packers are going to have to lean into throwing the ball early. Throwing the ball on early downs, first, second down. I think that's when they are at their best, when they let Jordan Love cook. This defense still has talent and still has potential, but I worry about their pass rush in these situations, especially when you play teams like the Eagles, when you play teams like the Bears, like they do this weekend. I worry about the pass rush in this scenario, but Jordan Love has been so good when he's not pressured, and when he's played this season, I think he's been really good this year, and I think if they're going to win the Super Bowl, I think it's going to have to be on Jordan Love's arm. That's
JP Acosta making the case for every NFC team to win the Super Bowl. JP certainly appreciated. By the way, I also just noticed he's got a Goku Funko Pop behind him. So again, Dragon Ball Z is all down. Let's take a look at odds to win the AFC, or rather NFC specifically. Seahawks are the betting favorite at plus 175. Panthers, no surprise, the long shots there at 80 to 1.
How about the AFC? Let's go team by team and make the case for each to make the Super Bowl. Stick around to see Pete Prisco do his best to convince us that the Jags can win it all for the first time ever.
Let's continue the conversation in terms of making the case to win the Super Bowl. This time we're going AFC. Tommy, Emily, and Pete Prisco now joining us. So again, all AFC teams 1 through 7. Pete, let's start with the 1 seed and the bye, the Denver Broncos.
Defense, defense, defense. I mean, that's pretty simple when it comes to them. Look, they're suffocating on defense. Vance Joseph has done a great job. They get after the quarterback. They attack the quarterback. They're good on the back end. They cover well. The question will be the offense, but they've made a lot of plays in the big moments. You know, Bo Nix has been great in crunch time. So if you're looking for why they can do that, those are the whys. They can get after the quarterback. They can cover on the back end. They're great on defense. And Bo Nix has been outstanding in crunch time, and they've won a lot of close games.
They will not be playing on Wild Card Weekend, so we have to wait and see the Broncos run to the Super Bowl. Number 2 team, the Patriots, worst to first, and the division winner. Can they keep this thing rolling?
Absolutely. I mean, when you look at it, there are questions about them because they did beat a lot of teams that weren't very good, so people look at that schedule. But then you look at the quarterback. He's been great. He's in the MVP conversation, might win it. They can throw the ball. They've run the ball really well the last month of the season, and I think that's something you have to do in the postseason. Defensively, a lot of veterans, and we know they can cover on the back end. They can lock up guys, and when you can lock up people in the playoffs and go after the quarterback with a four-man rush, I think that's big for you. So there are a lot of reasons why. Mike Vrabel might be reason number one. He instilled that culture in them. They're tough, they're physical, and they're going to be a tough out.
So 2 teams down. We got 5 to go here. The Jacksonville Jaguars, Pete. If you make the case for Jacksonville to win it all, they can look back and say it all started with a wild card game, which we were home underdogs to the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, and when you look at this team, of all the teams in the AFC, they might be the most balanced. And by that I mean everybody has a strong unit and lesser unit. Jacksonville doesn't have a dominant unit, but they're good on both sides. And nobody is playing better quarterback in the NFL than Trevor Lawrence the last 8 weeks of the season. He's been that good. They're the #1 run defense in the league. Anthony Campanelli's done a great job. So they can stop the run. They can attack you with their blitzes. And on the other side of the ball, with Trevor Lawrence playing the way he's playing, they're going to be a tough out week in and week out.
Mentioned home dogs hosting the Bills at 1 o'clock on CBS on Sunday. We'll get to the Bills, but first, how about the Steelers? They are in this thing by the skin of their teeth. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but maybe the toughest team in the AFC to make the case for?
It's hard to make a case for the Steelers, but when you look at them, though, it is and it isn't. And the reason it isn't is because, A, they're at home, so you're going to get a good start there. 2, Aaron Rodgers. I mean, this guy's been in a lot of playoff games. He's been through wars. And when your quarterback's been through wars, that gives you an advantage over some teams. The other part of that is they are physical on the defensive line. And we saw that last week against the Ravens. They can get after the quarterback. They have guys in Watt, and Cam Hayward's been phenomenal this year. They can attack the quarterback. I worry a little bit about the back end. Physical on defense, physical on offense, and they have Aaron Rodgers. And oh, by the way, DK Metcalf is back, and that's a big part of their passing game. So I can make a case for the Steelers and Mike Tomlin.
All right.
Yes.
Make the case for the Houston Texans and DeMeco Ryan, where, again, you talk about team imbalances. We know Houston's defense elite. Offense enough to carry them through to the big game?
I mean, they're on a heater. They're on a 9-game winning streak. And when you're on a 9-game winning streak, you start believing. They have a lot of young players. This team is believing in itself, in large part because of the defense. And you look at that defense. What do they do well? Well, they attack the quarterback with 4-man fronts. They play a lot of off coverage, and they tackle well. They cover well. This defense, it's tough to move the football on. You have to be patient. On the other side, though, there are concerns. But C.J. Stroud can get hot. And when C.J. Stroud gets hot behind an offensive line that has improved, it's still not great, but it has improved, then they have a chance to make some plays down the field of the passing game with Nico Collins. So if they can combine the two of them, a great defensive effort, and get those shots from C.J. Stroud, they have a chance to be one of those dangerous teams in the playoffs.
Averaging 26 points a game over that 9-game win streak. So based on that defense, that could be enough to do some damage in this postseason. Yeah. Let's go to the 6th seed with the Bills. I think the case probably starts and ends with Josh Allen. However, he has the most appearances or most wins in the postseason, 7 without a Super Bowl appearance. So make the case.
And he's the one guy, when you look at it, and I say this all the time, if you're playing a team in the playoffs, you don't want to play him.
Yeah.
Because he's capable of becoming Superman. We've seen it in the playoffs. They also run the ball very well. The problem is their opening game, they're playing against the #1 run defense in the league, so it's going to be on him. The other side of the ball, they're not great on defense, but they have been better as of late, and I think that's a step in the right direction. A lot of veterans, they play a lot of off coverage, they play soft zone coverage, they know how to go after the football. But this will come down to Josh Allen. If they go and advance to the Super Bowl, it will be because of him.
Yeah, he just has to look at that bracket. For many years, it was Mahomes, Burrow, Jackson. That's not the case this year. Last but not least, the L.A. Chargers. With Justin Herbert, Jim Harbaugh, they navigated those offensive tackle troubles. Pete Prisco, make the case for the Bolts.
Well, you look at their defense, they've been very good. You know, we talk about the great defenses in this league. They've been really good with Jesse Minter on the defensive side of the ball. They're one of those defenses that don't allow you to get big plays, so you have to be patient. And when you're patient, sometimes you turn the ball over when you make mistakes. So that's, I think, a real advantage for them. The disadvantage you mentioned is the offensive line. But they've started running the ball a little bit more, which they want to do, and I think that'll help alleviate some of that pressure. Look, do I love their offensive line? No. Do I love the way that Justin Herbert can navigate the offensive line and move around and make throws? Yes. And I think this team, if he can get hot, that defense can keep him in games. They can maybe make a run.
That's Pete Prisco making the case for every AFC team to win the Super Bowl. Also, our thanks to JP Acosta tackling the NFC team. So, with that, here's the odds to win the Super Bowl from both conferences. Seahawks just under 4-1. Rams not far behind at plus 440. And as I mentioned, the Panthers, that actually came down. It was 225-1. Now it's 200-1.